continuing the series on the things I wish I knew. I wish I knew that my value does not fluctuate with my weight. So I am not of more value when I've lost weight, for example. Um, and I am not of less value when I've gained weight. But for a long time, and because of the standards of beauty, I've often felt like when I'm doing great and my weight is in control and I'm not binge eating, I'm not I'm doing all the things and I'm keeping the weight down. That I was of more value. And society doesn't help with this because we have decided that skinnier people are prettier people. We've decided that when somebody loses weight, everybody comments and everybody says how great you look, and that can mess with your mind, and it can mess with young people's minds especially. So I remember actually before I was 10, well, when I started, yeah, before I was 10, I was super skinny and super dark, okay? So picture me in the Kenyan heat, okay, going to school with no shoes for some of those years, and super skinny, super dark, because melanin was activated by the sunshine, and people always used to say how skinny I was. And then I turned 11, coming up to 12, and I started gaining a bit of weight, and I think some of that was connected to just becoming a teenager, okay? So I was starting to blossom, boobs were coming in, and stuff was happening, and started to gain a bit of weight. And that was just before I'd moved to Ireland. And people actually, because I was starting to gain weight, people started saying, that I shouldn't say people, one particular person started spreading rumors that I was pregnant, okay? I had not even kissed a boy at this point. So I don't know how I could have got pregnant. Anyway, then I moved to Ireland, and I discovered chocolate and ice cream and yogurts and bread. Oh my God, bread. And it's not that there's no bread in Kenya, but I didn't come from like a super rich family, so bread was actually a luxury. And then I went to boarding school, and bread was definitely like a luxury in my boarding school. And considering that I didn't have a lot of money, um anyway, so I moved to Ireland, discovered all this yummy stuff, and I gained a lot of weight. And at that point, I hadn't early on, so I moved when I was just about 12. So I hadn't in Kenya, if you, well, back then, I think things have changed now. If you were too skinny, it was a problem. Okay, so when you started gaining weight, it was a sign of wealth. It was a sign that you're doing well. As well, apart from that one person that was spreading rumors that that I was pregnant. Anyway, yeah, so for the first wee while, I was like, this is great, I'm gaining weight. And then I started making friends, like local friends, for lack of better word. And I remember a girl saying to me, we were all shopping and we were all getting dressed together. We were in the same changing room, and this girl saying to me, are you not embarrassed to be getting dressed in front of us, considering that you're not skinny? And I was just like, no, I hadn't thought about that. And from then on, I started to really struggle with thoughts about my weight, but I couldn't control my eating. Like I really struggled to just be like, okay, we're not gonna eat this because we're gaining weight. um, and I was also quite active, so I would run and play basketball. I did lots of stuff, and so I just never thought. Anyway, but as I grew older, um, I'd get comments from some guys saying, I remember liking one guy and he was like, I only date people who are size 8. And that really hurt my feelings. And it would only get worse. So I was always so in my head I thought if a guy wanted to date me, or it's it wasn't because I was this prize. It wasn't because I was this precious gem. It was just because their standards were not very high, um and yeah. So literally, and I would settle as well. So I would date people who were not good for me based on the fact that I thought I wasn't very pretty, that I wasn't very of so much value because I wasn't skinny. Um, yeah. So my struggle with my weight, a lot of it, and I didn't talk to anyone about it as well. This was the thing as well. Um, yeah. And then to kind of soothe myself, I would eat. So I'd feel bad that I wasn't skinny, and then I would eat. Which meant that I would gain more weight as well. Anyway, I moved out of my parents' house when I was 21 after my degree, um, and I started to kind of find myself in terms of health. So I was actually completely vegan for a few years there. Around that time, and I was doing 10Ks left, right, and center because I love the feeling of like exercise, love the feel of like just running. Oh, I just love it. Anyway, so I lost a lot of weight, and I even got speaking appointments in some churches to talk about how I lost weight. Okay, everybody was like, oh my god, you look fab, you look amazing. And actually the funny thing is, when I started being vegan and running, it was never to lose weight. In my head, I hadn't even connected the fact that if I was running and eating, you know doing being vegan and eating clean, it hadn't connected in my head that I would lose weight. So the weight loss was actually quite it was a surprise. Just weird. It's just weird how my brain works. So then I started to really kind of internalize this achievement and to be like, oh my god, I've lost weight. So then food started being really evil. So food was always my comfort, right? And it was never like evil, but at this point food became evil. And I remember eating a chocolate cake, okay, after a whole day of like eating well and whatever. I just had a chocolate cake. Not even like, it wasn't even like binge eating. It was just, sorry, my washing machine is on. It was just like a piece of chocolate cake. And that was the first time that I felt the urge to purge. And I had never felt that before, but because I was skinny now, I thought I have to maintain this. And the only thing I thought I could do to maintain it was to make myself get sick, which was strange because I hadn't reached that weight that I was at by doing that. But I just couldn't believe it. So I had had just one slice of chocolate cake and I felt the need to purge, and I did it, and I felt awful afterwards. But yeah, it became a bit of a cycle, and I started to fight it, like just to be like, okay, I have to do better. And remember, at this point I wasn't telling anyone. I wasn't blogging. I wasn't nothing. So this is all happening, and I'm not telling anyone. And I look like I have my shit together. Um, I was very active in church and stuff, um, but yet I felt like I couldn't tell anyone. So that was that, and then it stopped, thankfully. Oh, I think I did. I started dating Tim, and I told him, and he was just, he was very good at like affirming me and telling me how beautiful I was and all of that. Um, but my struggle with feeling like my value was connected to the number on the weighing scale, or the number or the size of clothes I was wearing. Literally, I'd be lying if I said that I've completely gotten over it. So like, for example, but I'm at a much better place now. The more I work on my trauma, the more I heal my inner child, the more I get to, the more I'm embracing my inherent worth and my inherent value, if that makes sense. But I was triggered yesterday because I was going to Dublin, and Dublin is the place. It's my city. I love Dublin. Like, I've spent most of my life in Dublin than anywhere else, but it was the place where a lot of my trauma happened. So a lot of it happened in Kenya, but quite a bit of it happened in Dublin. And I get triggered every time I go. And yesterday morning the trigger was, you are not skinny. You are like, you're not thin. Look at you. You look so fat. So as I was looking for something to wear, I was just like really stressed out about it. And I was just like, you know, and then I started to say to myself, one of the things that I do is affirm myself. I've started showing myself compassion and just affirming myself. And I was like, your value does not change with your size of clothes, the number on the weighing scale. Your value does not change. You are of value, whether you're skinny, whether you're fat or have fat. You are of value. You are amazing just because you are. And I think, and don't get me wrong, I'm not telling people not to exercise, I'm not telling people not to eat healthy, but I think we've created a culture where people's value and worth um is tied up with their weight. And it's a sad, 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 sad situation that we're in, and it causes eating disorders, it causes binge eating, and as a result, for a lot of people, then or some people, causes purging, and just values, or the feelings of feeling like they're not of value. Yeah, so I talked myself down, and got ready. We went to Dublin, and and it, um it was, oh, I forgot to say, so one of the places where I really struggled with my weight was actually in my church. A lot of the girls were quite thin, and people would make comments, and the guys in the church only wanted to date um skinny girls. And I was going back to my old church, and that's what the trigger was. And I hadn't been to the physical um building in quite a while. Anyway, what I really wanted to say to you today, if you're watching this, is that your value does not change with the number on the weighing scale. It doesn't fluctuate. So you're not of more value when you're skinnier. You're not of less value when you're fatter, or vice versa, depending on the culture that you're in. Your value is inherent. You are of value. You are amazing. You were created with value, and literally nothing you can do can change that. Nothing you can do can change that. You just, like, from the beginning of your conception, you were just of value. Yes, eat well. Yes, exercise. Yes, try and be in the best shape of your life, but your value will not increase, because you are just of amazing value regardless. And also be kind to yourself. Like, I have to remind myself that this body of mine has carried 3 babies. I have housed 3 children, 3 gorgeous boys. I have carried them. I have fed them. I'm still feeding them. So, like, my body is incredible, and I think we have to celebrate bodies. We have to celebrate people, and we have to celebrate ourselves. So remind yourself that your body has carried you, and if you have struggled with binge eating and whatever, it's a trauma response, right? And sometimes we have to be grateful for our trauma. I remember a lot of my binge eating sessions, and a lot of them actually helped me cope with with stuff that I don't think I could have coped with um as a teenager. I literally, not even as a teenager, even before that, they helped me cope. The food soothed me because there was no one there to soothe me. And I hadn't learned how to soothe myself. I didn't have the right tools. So food was good to me. And I'm not promoting binge eating, don't get me wrong, but be grateful for your trauma responses, because they held you when you couldn't, when you didn't know what was gonna happen. You yeah. So anyway, this I've made this video longer as usual than I wanted to, but I just wanted to encourage somebody and let you know that you are of value no matter how much you weigh. You could be weighing 600 pounds, and you are still as valuable as somebody who weighs 100 pounds. You are of value, and that never ever ever changes. The world wants you to think that it does, but it doesn't.